planet from the heart of Newry, where once upon a time the old Roland Harris garage was. You'd remember that, Jim McCart.
Indeed I do, yeah.
Indeed you do.
Yeah.
In your early days, first coming to Newry from Armagh. But Jim McCart, local councillor for all the time of his remembering almost. It's a joyful occasion to see Jim again and to welcome Jim into the studio, but it's a sad occasion that brings you here. The death in the helicopter crash in England last evening of Eddie Hockey, your former colleague in the Warren Point Harbour Authority.
Yeah.
How did the news reach you, Jim?
It shook me, so it did, because Eddie Hockey is a man I had the greatest admiration for. I first knew him when he was a rather brash young veterinary salesman, but I got to know him better for the 6 years that I served on Warren Point Harbour Authority. Now, I'm not pretending to say that him and I always agreed.
Sure.
Eddie was a man of fixed views after he had done his research and knew exactly what he was talking about. And one very often lost an argument with them. Yeah.
But you didn't mind losing an argument if you felt he had done that research.
Yes.
You visited the situation again.
He always had done his research. He always knew what he was talking about. And I used to get annoyed outside the Harbour Authority, especially at council meetings, when there was people who were very quick to run Eddie Hockey down. And I always had a very simple philosophy. We could do with 10 Eddie Hockeys in the Newry area.
We could have done with 10. Indeed, we could have done with 10 Eddie Hockeys. But the people, you know, to make a difference in life, to be productive in life, you need to act. You don't always have to take people with you, but you have to lead people.
Yep.
And that's something that people don't take kindly to.
Yeah. If Eddie was with you, he was with you. If he was against you, you could look out. So
you could look out, yeah.
But he was a superb businessman. So
Yeah.
he was, without a doubt. When one looks at the Norbrook organisation now, and bears in mind that it was grown, for better of a word, from scratch, so it was.
What was that scratch? You mentioned knowing him as a brash veterinary salesman.
Yeah.
How did it all begin, Jim?
Well, I wouldn't have known him until he was a veterinary salesman, but to the best of my knowledge, and there were two friends of mine. Unfortunately, one of them's dead, Liam Trainer, and the other was Gary Crawford, who now lives in Scotland. One time they were the two sole sales employees of Norbrook. When you think of it now, I think it was sheer dedication. I think once he identified a niche in the market, he had that determination that few people had, and he saw it through. He saw it through to the well, I nearly said to the bitter end.
Yeah.
To the successful end.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Your time on the Harbour Board with him, the Harbour Authority.
Yeah.
In recollection, what was his finest hour there, would you say?
I think his final hour, along with the rest of the members, when we shall we say, for want of a better word, adopted an overall plan, and I'm talking now about the 80s. It took a long time to get it into operation. It's only now coming into operation, and I'm pleased to say that Warren Point Harbour was never busier, and I like to think that goes back to the planning that was done in the 80s, of which Eddie Hockey was part of.
But he would never have been a committee man, would he?
No, he wasn't a committee man, but at the same time he was shrewd enough. He was a very shrewd businessman. If something was of benefit to what he believed in, and despite what people said about him, he believed very, very, shall we say, conscientiously in the development of the Newry and Mourne area. So he did. Yeah.
And he put into, if you think about it, generations of Newry people, families, became prosperous as a consequence of Norbrook.
Oh yeah. I mean, I hear people saying, "Oh, Norbrook, many many do they employ?" But when you look at it, I know people personally. I know one man who sits on the board of the credit union with me, and he spent 25 years with Norbrook, and he is fully pensioned, fully looked after, and he finds them very, very good, tough but hard. Tough but hard employers, but that's what you want. And I had the pleasure of working for one of them. That was the Reed Corrugated Cases for 37 years.
But you were in politics you were a tough man yourself, but you drove things forward.
Yeah. You had to take criticism. I was trying to think of a word. You had to accept that you were going to be criticised.
Oh yeah.
That your views were not always to be in agreement with those of other people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you were right, you stuck to it, and eventually you made it.
In a nutshell, Jim, this morning, how would you sum up our loss?
I would sum up our loss, and that would be the loss of the entire population of Newry and Mourne, and indeed further afield. My weighing up of Norbrook is that whilst it's a very, very successful company, there's no two ways about it. It's probably one of the most successful companies in the British Isles. At the same time, a lot of that success depended on the drive, the tenacity, the foresightness, and the sheer cussedness at times of Eddie Hockey. And he certainly will be missed very, very badly.
Jim McCart, thank you very much indeed. And what we're going to do now, Jim, we're going to go back to our news hub and play out for the people across the world how we brought the news this morning of the death of Eddie Hockey. Sean.
You can't play that, like you're after recording.
We've just gone live. As flies to wanton boys are we to the gods. They kill us for their sport. Eddie Hockey, the richest man in Northern Ireland, the founder of Norbrook Laboratories, ennobled from the self-made man Eddie Hockey to Lord Ballyedmond, is dead. Eddie Hockey was one of 4 people to die in a helicopter crash in Norfolk in the south of England last evening round about tea time. One of the other folk to have perished in the event is thought to be from County Down as well. The aircraft went down in thick fog near Gillingham Hall, the stately home owned by Lord Ballyedmond in the south of England.